Every day for the last couple of years, it seems like a new tequila brand is hitting the market, and there's thousands and thousands of tequila brands out there, and I've reviewed a ton of them on this channel. It's one of the things I do the most on this channel at this point because it's what you guys seem to really want. In this video, I want to talk about 3 brands that I think are incredible hidden gems that maybe people aren't talking about quite yet. Number 1 is Tierra de Ensueño. I've actually spoken a little bit about this tequila last year. Since that first initial review, they've been out for almost a year on the market and they've been doing some really incredible stuff. But let's take it back and talk a little bit about this brand a little bit. This brand is made at NOM 1580. It is distilled by master distiller Sergio Cruz, and he works with Oscar Vasquez as the master blender to create this incredible spirit. I think that their branding is beautiful. I think they do a really good job with the looks of this bottle. It's really catchy, eye-catching, I should say. And even though it is a Blanco, technically this was aged in extra rare former bourbon casks. I think this one was either 14 or 18 days, I cannot remember. Technically, Blancos can be aged up for 60 days and still be considered Blancos. They've been trying to take a batch approach. So this one right here that I have is from batch number 4, but this one that I have here is from batch number 2. And so they've been playing and experimenting with different expressions rather than kind of blending everything together. One of them I think was aged for 21 days if I'm not mistaken, versus the other one was like 14 or 18. I'm a little confused about it because it's been a little while. The other thing that I think they've been doing fascinatingly is their like special expressions. This is an expression of theirs that is aged in former Caribbean rum casks, which I believe were Jamaican rum casks, which is really fascinating. And then a couple weeks ago, they just released another special edition that this one was aged in former Spanish Rioja wine casks. And so let's taste it and then we can talk about it. Grab our handy dandy In Good Spirits tasting glass. Love the nose on that. I just love that Blanco. It's really bright and citrusy. The cooked agave flavor comes through really well. It's vegetal, it's a little peppery, and you get a little bit of citrus like lime and orange peel, and it's just really good. But it's also got this underlying like salty or briny kind of flavor to it, which I love. And next up, let's try the former Caribbean rum cask aged one, and then we're gonna use our incredible tasting glass from the Agave Social Club. On the nose, I'm getting like tropical hints, a little bit of like, obviously that aged part of it where you get a little bit of that caramel, a little bit of vanilla. You get that like a little bit of that funk from the Caribbean rum cask, but you get these beautiful, delightful tropical notes, a little bit of fruit, a little bit of citrus. The agave is still very, very present, and it's gonna sound a little strange, but you get a little bit of coconut, and I love that. I think that it's a beautiful, delightful flavor combination, and it's just really well done. And now for probably the coolest thing I think that they made, this former Rioja red wine cask aged tequila. I love Rioja, I love Spanish wine. It's one of my favorite types of wine. On the nose, cooked agave, you get like a red fruit aroma, and like a little bit like a plum or cherry in a way. I love that. It's awesome. It's fruity, it's like rich, it coats your mouth beautifully. There's that great barrel flavor, but it's very fruity. It's got like a nice cherry plum kind of flavor to it. The agave is still very prominent. You get some of those barrel notes like the caramel, little vanilla, but you can taste the grapes, you can taste the wine. It's so good. It's so good, so good. Now look, don't get me wrong, I understand that we're talking about 2 expressions here that are limited editions, small runs. But the point of me talking about this is to showcase that if they keep on this trajectory, their future releases are gonna be just as special as these. And I think that they're picking these very specific little projects to do that they're a little bit different than everyone else with slight little hints. Like I had never seen a Rioja aged tequila, and I think it fits perfectly well. I had seen like Jamaican rum cask aged tequila before, sorry, Caribbean rum cask aged tequila before, but this one I prefer a lot more. So I think that what they're doing is very fascinating. They're pushing the envelope, and I think that for a newer brand, that's what you kind of got to do. You can't just do the same old. You got to go and try to be a little bit different, and I'm really loving these special edition releases that they're doing. So Ensueño team, keep doing good stuff. This is good stuff. The next brand I want to talk about is Alto Kanto. This is a brand that launched in 2024, and they are one of the brands that really blew me away that I tried last year. They are made at NOM 1636, which they are actually the only brand produced at this NOM. because it's a pretty brand new distillery that they built basically at the top of a mountain. They are made at over 9,000 feet elevation. That does change the process of fermenting and distilling. The different pressures at the different altitudes will make a change. One of the things that's really fascinating about them is that they are fermented twice, actually. And it's a wild fermentation that they do. And they do a second fermentation that creates this very interesting, funky kind of flavor, but it's all wild fermentation. They planted a bunch of fruits and things up at the top of this mountain as well when they, build the distillery, and that helps to populate the yeast and things like that. And it's like open air fermentation, which is very wild, very funky, very weird. And they're actually also one of the few tequila brands that are crushed with Tahona basically exclusively. It's a newer brand, but they're doing everything seemingly the very right way, trying to create a very unique product. And we have here 3 different expressions. I have their regular Blanco, we have a high proof Blanco, and a Reposado. Each one of these I think is so vastly different from one another, but let's start with the Blanco. Oh, and a funny little note about the bottles. These ridges on the side is actually the topographical map of the mountain in the Sierra del Tigre mountains. This is the topographical, whatever map nerds call it. That thing, they just molded around the bottle, which I think is really, really cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to offend any of you map nerds out there, you cartographers, you little guys. Y'all keep doing you, all right? On the nose, I'm getting a lot of like lime, weirdly enough. A little bit of like mint and minerality, and then that cooked agave comes right through. That is so funky and fun. You get that cooked agave flavor. It's a little fruity, it's a little savory, it's a little briny, but then that funk is really the underlying kind of tone there. Really tasty stuff. I think it makes for a great Blanco. I like that. I like that a lot. It's really nice. And then next, let's move to the high proof before we taste the Repo. So this one is 48% ABV. The regular Blanco was 40. On the nose, this one I get a lot of that cooked agave up front, and it's a little bit of like a florality to it. It's fun, it's funky, it's got a lot going on. I actually prefer this one to the regular Blanco because I think that it just turned up those kind of funk flavors up to 11. And it's got like a buttery texture to it. It's velvety smooth even though it's not aged. It's a little bit of black pepper as well, and just, it's got like some spice notes even though it's just a Blanco. Just a Blanco, I say. But that's really good. And last but not least, we have the Reposado. This one is also 40% ABV. Ooh, I like the nose on that. So much lighter in the glass than it is in the bottle, but it's still got a nice color to it. I love the nose on that. It's very fruity. It's a little reminiscent of like candy. That is so weird. It's got this like very super prominent like cinnamon and cherry and like apple flavor that is just very, very present. It's super fruity. At the same time, it has a little bit of spice to it. It's just mind-blowing. It's very tasty. It tastes, it's gonna sound weird, it tastes darker than it looks. It has a nice texture. Maybe it's that buttery kind of like texture to it that makes me think it's aged for longer, but it is, wow, that's nice. And the apple and cherry flavor really comes through. That spice, really, really tasty. This it's good stuff, man. As a quick little how do you say, honorable mention, we have Entre Manos. I think that they are doing an incredible job as well with their brand. I really like what they're doing. They've actually been around for a little bit, but they're not to the US market. They are made out of Gnome 1522. They have a regular and their high proof. Their high proof is more recent. I think they're really doing a killer job with both of these. Highly recommend these as well. And lastly, we have Alma del Jagad. This brand is made at Gnome 1414, and the master distiller is Sergio Cruz, and I think that this is another incredible brand of tequila that he has his fingerprints on, and I absolutely love these guys. One of the things that makes them very special, it's actually about their name, is the brand was created in part to support and protect the jaguars in the north of Mexico and the southeast of the United States. It's where the name comes from. It's like the soul of the jaguar. A lot of the money goes to helping a conservation land called the Northern Jaguar Project. The brand is set up, at least in part, to help protect some of the last remaining of these animals. So they have a Blanco, they have a Reposado in Añejo, and they have their Nocturna, which is their high proof. And I know they have a couple of other things coming down the line, but these are the 4 main expressions they have right now. It's very agave forward, a lot of mineral, a little bit of citrus, and it smells a little savory as well. On the palate, prominent notes of black pepper. Really nice and peppery. It really stands up well. It's beautiful to sip on its own. Got a little bit of citrus and that like briny kind of flavors right down at the bottom there. Just kind of like wrap it all up. Really good stuff. Next up is the Reposado. On the nose, you get a lot of those prominent like barrel aromas, a little bit of caramel, a little bit of honey, but I'm also getting like slightly fruity vibes as well. It's warm and tingly. It's really tasty. It's got a lot of those like the same kind of thing from the aroma. The barrel elements really play a huge role in this one. You get that caramel, you get that vanilla, you get a little bit of that honey and some black pepper as well. Again, the savoriness comes through at the end and it's really fucking tasty. Next up, let's talk about the Añejo, which I am a huge fan of. On the nose, very oaky, very caramelly. You get a lot of that right in your face. Really warms you up inside. It's got a very earthy flavor as well, which is a little bit different. And it's a little herbal as well. I think it's so really well made. It's really easy and nice to sip on. It coats your mouth beautifully and gives you a nice warm hug going down. Really nice. And then lastly, we have probably what is my favorite thing that they make, the Nocturna, which is their 101 proof or 50.5% ABV. This one is literally basically empty. I'm a big fan of this, and this was made in fall 2004. One of the big differences between this and their regular stuff is that this is wild yeast. So every time that they make this, it won't taste the same. The idea is that they have a vintage on the neck here, the fall 2024, and that every time that they do it, they're going to be using wild yeast, and that'll taste different depending on what's going on. And it's open air fermentation, so it's basically whatever's out in the world comes in and ferments this one, and no two batches of this will taste the same, which I like. Gives me an excuse to keep buying it and drinking. Ooh, nice and tingly as it goes down. Tons of citrus, tons of black pepper, nice and a little savory, but the coating, the way that it coats your mouth is just so good. The higher proof Blancos, man, they have my heart. They have my heart for a very good reason. And it's just so good. That's delightful. And so there you have it, 3 brands that I think are hidden gems that people aren't talking about yet, but they're all 3 brands that I tried for the first time last year, and I think that they are doing it the right way. So many brands are kind of coming into the market and just trying to, sell you crap. These guys, even though it is a very, very crowded marketplace at the moment for tequila brands, they are trying to do something different. But if you want to see another video about tequila, there's so many on my video, and I'll have one, there's so many on my channel, I should say. I'll have one pop up right over here somewhere.